Salut tout le monde! Welcome back to FrenchArena. In today's awesome lesson, we are going to explore two fundamental tenses in the French language, l'imparfait and le passé composé. Understanding when to use each tense and how to conjugate them correctly is essential for expressing actions in the past accurately. Vous êtes prêts? C'est parti! Now, understanding these tenses in French is important for effective communication and comprehension. Here's why. You get to express past actions better. You get to narrate stories. You get to understand written and spoken French because these tenses are used interchangeably in texts. And it also helps for conversational fluency. So when you understand l'imperfait and le passé composé, you're able to switch between each of these tenses seamlessly. In essence, mastering these two tenses allows you to navigate various communicative situations in the French language with confidence, precision, and most important, clarity. Now, before we get started with today's lesson, just because I want you to always remember everything you learned, I have created a perfect free PDF for you. All you need to do is input your name and email address in the link in the description box below, and today's lesson will be sent directly to your inbox. It consists of the explanations, the examples, everything which you've learned today. And I've always put a quiz. I put a quiz for you so that you can boost your confidence and test your knowledge in what you have learned in today's lesson. With that being said, there's also a quiz at the end of today's lesson, so make sure you stay tuned to the end so you can practice all you have learned today. With that being said, let us get started with understanding these two past tenses. All right, so what is l'imparfait, which is also the imperfect tense? L'imparfait is used to describe ongoing or habitual actions in the past, to set the scene, or to express feelings or states. It is often translated into English as was, were, plus verb ing, or used to plus verb. Now, to conjugate verbs in the imperfect tense, it's pretty simple. You take a verb, for instance, so let me use parler. You take parler and you take just the stem. So you remove er and you have parl, and you add the correct endings depending on the subject pronoun. So if I was going to conjugate the subject pronoun for je, it would be je parlais. For tu, it would be tu parlais. Il ou elle parlait. Nous parlions. Vous parliez. Il ou elle parlait. Okay? So just hold on to that. We're going to do the same thing for Passé Composé, and then we're going to delve deeper on 4 different institutions where you can use each of them. Okay? I'm going to explain when to use l'imparfait and when to use le passé composé so that you understand better. Now, how can you define le passé composé? Passé composé is used to express specific completed actions or events that occurred at a particular point in the past. It is formed by conjugating the auxiliary verb, which is avoir ou être in the present tense, followed by the past participle of the main verb. Now, the conjugations of le passé composé really differs. Most of them use avoir, and sometimes some of them use être. If you're using être, please remember that you have to take note of the movement verbs. So that's called Dr. Mrs. Van der Tromp, okay? There are just a select group of verbs that actually use être when conjugated in le passé composé. For example, the verb manger, which means to eat, if I were to conjugate it in le passé composé using avoir as the auxiliary verb, it would be j'ai mangé, tu as mangé, il ou elle a mangé, nous avons mangé, vous avez mangé, ils, elles ont mangé. But if I were to conjugate it with être used as an auxiliary verb, let me use for instance passé, which means to pass, it would be je suis passé, tu es passé, il est passé, elle est passée, nous sommes passés, vous êtes passés, ils sont passés, elles sont passées. Now that you understand how to define le passé composé and l'imparfait, let's delve more into understanding what makes each of them unique. Now, let's take a look at the first point, duration versus specificity. Now, the l'imparfait, like I said, is used to describe ongoing or habitual actions in the past, expressing actions that were taking place over an extended period or were repeated regularly. This is what the imperfect tense does. It's pretty clear. But the le passé composé, on the other hand, please take note, it's used to denote specific completed actions or events that occurred at a particular moment in the past with a clear beginning and end. So you understand the duration versus specificity? the l'imperfect is still ongoing, but le passé composé is completed, done, and dusted. Let's take a look at point 2. So point 2, we're going to take a look at background versus main events. L'imperfect often sets the scene or provides background information in a narrative describing the context or circumstances surrounding the main events, while le passé composé focuses on narrating the main events or actions that move the story forward, highlighting specific moments or actions that occurred. Now, the third point is for adverbs and context. Let's see how they're both used in this situation. Adverbs such as souvent, tous les jours, and d'habitude often accompany l'imperfect tense, while adverbs such as soudain, hier, or tout à coup are most likely to accompany le passé composé. And the final point is the narrative flow. In a narrative or storytelling context, l'imperfect is often used to describe the background, the setting, or ongoing action, while le passé composé is reserved for the main events or actions that advance the plot. Okay? So do you have a better understanding of both of them? Now we're going to look at some sample sentences just so that you can even understand better when to use l'imperfect and when to use le passé composé. Okay, so we're going to compare and contrast 3 similar sentences where both tenses were used. So the first one, l'imperfect. In English, I could say, yesterday, the weather was beautiful and I was walking in the park. In French, that would be, hier, il faisait beau et je me promenais dans le parc. And in le passé composé, I could say, in English, yesterday, the weather was beautiful and I walked in the park. And in French, I could say, hier, il a fait beau, j'ai marché dans le parc. In the l'imperfect tense, je me promenais, I was walking, indicates an ongoing action in the past, suggesting that the speaker was walking for an extended period of time, or repeatedly, so was walking repeatedly. In the le passé composé sentence, j'ai marché, I walked, suggests a specific completed action that occurred at a moment in the past with a clear beginning and an end. Let's look at another sample sentence. In the imperfect tense in English, it would be, when I was little, I used to love cartoons. And in French, that would be, quand j'étais petit, j'adorais les dessins animés. And in le passé composé en anglais, it would be, when I was little, I watched a lot of cartoons. And in French, that would be, quand j'étais petit, je regardais beaucoup de dessins animés. Now, let's compare both of them. In the l'imperfect sentence, j'adorais, which means I used to love, expresses a past habit or ongoing state, indicating that the speaker loved cartoons as a child over a period of time. Whilst in le passé composé sentence, j'ai regardé, which means I watched, describes a specific action of watching cartoons that took place at some point in the past without necessarily implying ongoing love for cartoons. So can you see the difference in both of them? Let's look at another sample sentence just so that you can understand when to use each of these tenses even better. Now, l'imperfect in English, I could say, when she lived in Paris, she used to take the metro every day. En français, quand elle habitait à Paris, elle prenait le métro tous les jours. And let's take a look at the le passé composé. I could say, when she lived in Paris, she visited all the famous landmarks. En français, quand elle habitait à Paris, elle a visité tous les monuments célèbres. And so let's compare the both of them. In the l'imperfect sentence, elle prenait, which is she used to take, describes a habitual action in the past, indicating that she regularly took the metro during her time living in Paris, versus in the passé composé sentence, elle a visité, she visited. This denotes a specific action of visiting famous landmarks that occurred at some point during her time in Paris, without necessarily implying repeated visits. And so, do you understand the sample sentences better? I mean, by giving you the examples I gave you and the different times in which we use these tenses, I'm sure you're understanding when to use each of them even better. And so, to test your understanding of today's fantastic lesson, let's do a quick quiz just so that I'm very sure you know when to use l'imperfect and when to use le passé composé. In the comment section below, let me know if you get all the answers or how many you get. Let's get started with the quiz. Number 1, which tense is used to describe ongoing or habitual actions in the past? Is it A, B, or C? Correct. It is B, l'imperfect. Number 2, in which sentence is l'imperfect used correctly? Look at them correctly. Is it A, is it B, or is it C? Perfect. It is A. Hier, il a fait beau et je me promenais dans le parc. You have to be very careful when you're picking the answers, okay? Because if you take a look at them, you can see that in the other options, I had mixed it with le passé composé. Numéro 3. Which tense is used to express specific completed actions or events in the past? Is it A, B, or C? Correct. It is A, le passé composé. Number 4. Identify the sentence where le passé composé is used correctly. Is it an A, B, or C? You can pause to be sure. Check correctly so you pick the right answer. Perfect. It is C. Hier, il a fait beau et j'ai marché dans le parc. And number 5, when do you use l'imperfait to describe actions in the past? Is it A, B, or C? Exactly. It is B for ongoing or habitual actions. And there you have it. Let me know in the comment section below how many did you get. Into this fantastic lesson, you have now gained a solid understanding of these tenses. You know when to use l'imparfait or when to use le passé composé. Remember to practice conjugating verbs in both tenses and to use them appropriately in your conversations and writing. And like I said in the beginning, to help you understand these tenses better, I have created an ebook. All you need to do is input your name and email address in the link in the description box below. This ebook contains every single explanation we talked about today, the examples, and there's a bonus quiz at the end for you. The quiz is different from what we have done in today's lesson. It's the perfect way to reinforce your understanding of today's lesson and boost your confidence in the French language. So if you're ready to take your French skills to the next level, and I'm sure you are, all you need to do is download the free ebook and get started. Thank you so much for watching today's lesson. Please do not forget to subscribe. Like today's lesson if you genuinely enjoyed this and understood when to use each tense better, and share with anyone else who is struggling to understand when to use l'imparfait or when to use le passé composé. If you would love to learn how to conjugate ER verbs in le passé composé, I have the perfect lesson for you. All you need to do is click this link above to watch me conjugate 50 ER verbs in le passé composé. Until I see you in that lesson, bonne journée.